Unfortunately, some members of the media
use their platforms
to push their own personal bias.
and agenda to control exactly what people think.
One take, one reporter, one complete and total collapse in under 24 hours. Jason Lloyd didn't just get a story wrong. He didn't just fumble a hot take on a slow news day. He built an entire narrative around destroying Shedeur Sanders, pushed it publicly with full confidence, and then quietly contradicted every single word of it the very next morning like he hoped nobody kept the receipts. But people always keep the receipts. This isn't just a media slip. This is a grown man with a professional platform embarrassing himself on camera, while a young quarterback quietly outworks every single critic throwing stones at him from the comfort of a press box. And here's what makes this story hit different. The players spoke, the coaches spoke, the results spoke, and every single one of them told a completely different story than the one Jason Lloyd has been selling for months. So before you scroll past this, I want you to drop one word in the comments right now. Just one. Type *work if you believe what a player does on the field matters more than what a reporter says behind a microphone. Because what's coming next is going to completely change how you see this entire situation. Before we close this out completely, there is one more piece of this story that most people completely missed.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Sort of be shown how to watch film. Doesn't know what he's looking at on the field. Doesn't know when he's hot. All this stuff. And
it's crazy because after all that,
I don't think anyone is saying trade him now. Because first of all, I don't think there's any market for him.
Hold up. Yesterday, he just said another thing too. Yesterday, he said, hey, we should already trade him. We should have already got rid of him. We should have got rid of him in the offseason. Like right away, we should have pulled that ripcord. He said that yesterday in the video that we covered when we released it last night. And then saying he doesn't have any video,
But it absolutely has to do with the locker room.
What? Why? Why locker room? You think they just live in the locker room and they just gossip? Because that's the only way that would happen. Like, why would they give a shit about what's going on Twitter, social media, what I'm saying, what everybody else is saying, what Jason Lloyd's saying? Why would they care that much? Why? Look at that. Look at that face Jason Lloyd's got. Look at that face. Look at that right there. Like, all serious.
Here is where the story actually starts. And it starts with a contradiction so obvious, it's almost hard to believe a professional journalist let it happen in public. One day, Jason Lloyd is screaming at the top of his lungs that Shedeur Sanders should have been traded months ago. Not just traded, ripped out like a bad tooth before the season even had a chance to breathe. He wanted the Browns to pull that cord in the offseason, toss Shedeur aside immediately, and move on without a second thought. That was his position. He said it clearly, said it loudly, and put it out there for the entire Cleveland sports world to hear. Then came the very next day. Suddenly, Jason Lloyd is sitting there casually admitting that there's no real market for Shedeur at all. Nobody is actually calling. Nobody is lining up to make that trade happen. And just like that, the whole argument he built with so much energy and confidence the day before crumbled into absolutely nothing in less than 24 hours. Bruce caught it instantly. He went straight at it, replaying exactly what Lloyd said the day before and holding it right next to what he was saying now. The gap between those two statements is not small. It's not a subtle shift in perspective or a slight adjustment based on new information. It's a full reversal, a total contradiction. A man saying two completely opposite things and hoping the audience either forgot or wasn't paying close enough attention to notice the whiplash. Here's why this matters beyond just one bad take. When you have a media platform, when people tune into your show or read your column specifically because they trust your analysis, consistency is everything. Your credibility lives and dies by whether your arguments actually hold together when someone puts them side by side. Jason Lloyd put his own arguments side by side for everyone to see, and they didn't just fail to hold together. They fell apart completely on their own. You cannot build a fire around trading a player and then turn around the next morning and quietly admit nobody even wants him. Those two things cannot both be true at the same time. Either the market is there and the Browns should move him, or the market doesn't exist and the whole trade argument was never real in the first place. Jason Lloyd managed to argue both positions within the same news cycle, which means at least one of them was never grounded in any actual research or real information. Bruce didn't need to get emotional to expose this. He didn't need to yell or get dramatic about it. He just held up the receipts and let the contradiction speak for itself. That's the most damaging kind of exposure because there's no way to spin your way out of it. The tape exists. The words were said. The flip happened. And that's just the beginning of where Jason Lloyd's argument starts falling apart. Because the locker room claim he made next was somehow even weaker than the trade take he just buried himself with. After the trade argument collapsed, Jason Lloyd needed somewhere new to go. He needed a fresh angle to keep the anti-Shedeur narrative alive, and the locker room was exactly where he decided to plant his next flag. Drop Gridiron in the comments if you see what's actually happening in Cleveland.
Most people in the locker room, if you go ask his teammates, Tyson Campbell says highly great things about him. Denzel Boston, the young guys love him. I haven't heard one teammate yet come out and say, oh, Shedeur was a distraction last year. As a matter of fact, I just keep hearing his teammates continue to say how much of a professional he's been, how much he continues to just go in and work. And all Todd Bunky says is Shedeur is a worker.
He was the only one there this offseason. Dylan was in Hawaii. Deshaun Watson was in Italy, or where the fuck he was at. He was traveling Europe. He was the only one there just hanging out in the facilities, just working out, doing whatever. He was the only one there. And then we saw the spark and the energy this offense had when he got in it. They wanted him there. Like, that's the clue. Like, we can't be there. We can only take out. That is the clue, though.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
The claim was simple. All the noise surrounding Shedeur Sanders has absolutely wrecked the internal culture of the Cleveland Browns locker room. The media attention, the social media buzz, the constant controversy swirling around him from the outside, Lloyd wanted viewers to believe all of it was seeping through the walls of that building and poisoning everything happening inside. Bruce stopped him cold right there, and the question he asked was the simplest, most logical question anyone could possibly ask in that moment. Why would they care? Why would a locker room full of professional football players, grown men whose entire world revolves around preparation, practice, film study, and performance, spend their energy worrying about what Jason Lloyd typed that morning? Why would they build their culture around one reporter's commentary? Why would any of that matter inside a building where the only thing that actually counts is what happens between the white lines on game day? The answer is that it wouldn't, it doesn't, and it never has. This is one of the oldest and laziest moves in sports media. When a reporter runs out of real, provable arguments, they reach for the invisible narrative. They invent some unnamed internal tension that nobody inside the building has actually confirmed. They point towards some vague cultural damage that conveniently can't be measured, verified, or disproven because it exists only in their own framing of the situation. Think about what Jason Lloyd was actually asking viewers to believe. He was asking you to accept that a roster full of professional athletes, guys who have dedicated their entire lives to this game, are sitting around in that facility genuinely distracted by Twitter arguments and media hot takes about their backup quarterback. That image alone should tell you everything about how disconnected this argument is from actual NFL reality. Real locker rooms don't work that way. Real players are too locked in, too competitive, and too focused on their own jobs to spend energy caring about what a columnist thinks about a teammate. The players who thrive in that environment are the ones who block all of that outside noise out completely, not the ones absorbing it. And here's the part that makes Lloyd's claim even harder to defend. Every teammate who has actually spoken about Shedeur publicly has said the opposite of what Lloyd is describing. Not one player has walked out of that building and called him a distraction. Not one. The locker room narrative Jason Lloyd tried to sell has found zero support from the only people actually living inside it. Bruce identified this perfectly. The drama doesn't exist in the locker room. It exists in the media, created by the same people who then turn around and blame the player for it. That's not reporting. That's a setup. And Shedeur is the one being framed for a fire he never started. There's a moment in that segment that Bruce kept coming back to, and it's worth slowing down on because it reveals something that words alone never could. When a person gets caught in a contradiction on camera, something changes. The confidence that was there a minute ago starts to quietly drain out of their expression. The energy shifts. The body language tightens up in ways that are subtle but completely visible to anyone paying attention. And Bruce was paying very close attention. He kept pointing to Jason Lloyd's face. He zoomed in on it. He held that image up and let it sit there for a moment. And the reason he did that is because what was happening in that expression told the whole story in a way that no stat or quote ever could. That is not the face of someone who stands fully behind what he just said. That is not the look of a confident analyst who has done the research, built the argument, and is ready to defend every single word of it under pressure. That's the look of someone who knows, somewhere in the back of their mind, that they've been caught, that the receipts surfaced, that the audience is now holding two completely contradictory statements at the same time and waiting for some kind of explanation that isn't coming. Body language in moments like these matters more than most people realize. It's the part of communication that humans can't fully fake, even when they're practiced at staying composed on camera. The micro-expressions, the slight stiffening, the shift in posture when a question lands somewhere uncomfortable, all of it leaks out no matter how hard someone tries to control the moment. Bruce didn't need a long monologue to make this point land. He just pointed at the screen and let viewers see it for themselves. That's actually more powerful than any breakdown, because it invites the audience to trust their own instincts rather than just accepting someone else's interpretation. And here's what that moment really tells you about the bigger picture. Shedeur Sanders has spent the last year getting picked apart publicly, facing criticism about his game, his attitude, his future, his value to the franchise. He has sat through all of that without flinching publicly, without snapping, without letting any of it crack his composure on or off the field. The cameras have been on him constantly, and he has never once given anyone that look, that quiet, scrambling expression that silently admits something went wrong. Jason Lloyd got one challenge from Bruce on a live segment, and his face told the whole story before his words even had a chance to catch up. That contrast says everything. The young quarterback everyone is supposedly worried about has handled a full year of pressure with more composure than the veteran reporter trying to explain a 24-hour contradiction. Character shows up in moments like these, and this particular moment didn't belong to Jason Lloyd. Not even close. After the locker room narrative started losing air, Jason Lloyd shifted his angle one more time. This time the concern was about Shedeur's potential backup role, and the way Lloyd framed it was designed to make that scenario feel dangerous, almost like some kind of threat to the entire organization. He threw out a vague warning. He referenced everything that happened last year like it was common knowledge, like every viewer already understood exactly what dark chapter he was pointing toward. The implication was clear enough. If Shedeur becomes the backup, get ready, because whatever went wrong last year is going to come rushing right back. G. Bush stopped him immediately and asked the most natural question in the world. What's actually wrong with Shedeur being a backup? Name the specific problem. Say it out loud. Put it on the table where everyone can look at it. Jason Lloyd couldn't do it. He danced around it, leaned on the vague reference, hid behind the fear of what might happen without ever identifying what actually happened in the first place. That's not analysis. That's a ghost story. That's someone waving their hands in a dark room and hoping the audience gets scared without ever turning the lights on. Bruce made it even clearer. He has covered this story almost every single day for close to a full year. A year of daily coverage on Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns situation. If there was a genuine disaster last season, something real and documented and provable, Bruce would have reported it. He was there. He was watching. He was covering every development as it happened. And in all of that time, there was no actual incident, no blow-up, no locker room confrontation, no public outburst, no coaching staff complaint. Nothing that you could point to and say, here, this is the specific moment that proves Shedeur Sanders is a problem inside that building. What there was, though, was a young quarterback who got almost no reps during a stretch of his development that should have been critical. He was pushed to the side, given limited opportunities, treated in a way that would have broken a lot of players mentally, and he stayed quiet through every single day of it. He didn't go to the media. He didn't post something inflammatory to get attention. He didn't demand a trade or force a public confrontation with the coaching staff. He showed up and kept working. That's the actual story from last season, not some mystery disaster that Jason Lloyd keeps hinting at but refuses to name. The real story is a young man who absorbed real adversity without cracking, stayed professional in a situation that gave him every excuse not to be, and came out the other side still locked in and ready to compete. Jason Lloyd wants you afraid of a backup role, but the player he's describing doesn't match the one that actually exists. At a certain point in any argument, you have to stop listening to the people on the outside and start paying attention to the ones actually inside the situation. And when it comes to the real story on Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland, the voices from inside that building are telling something completely different from the narrative being pushed by the media. Tyson Campbell speaks highly of him. Denzel Boston and the younger players in that locker room genuinely love him. These are teammates, real players who share that facility every single day, who see how Shedeur carries himself in practice, in the film room, in the weight room, in every environment that actually matters for building a winning football team. Not one of them has stepped forward to call him a distraction. Not one teammate has gone on the record to say Shedeur is creating problems inside that building. The silence from that locker room on any negative Shedeur story is not an accident. It's a reflection of what's actually happening in there. And what's happening is clearly not matching the narrative being sold on talk shows and opinion columns. Then there's Todd Monken, the head coach, the man who sits in those quarterback meetings, who watches film with Shedeur directly, who calls the plays and evaluates every single read and decision Shedeur makes in real time during practice reps. Monken's assessment is simple and direct. Shedeur is a worker. Now think about what that actually means coming from that source. Head coaches in the NFL do not hand out genuine praise lightly. They have seen too many players, worked with too many quarterbacks, and understand too deeply what separates players who just have talent from players who have the discipline to develop it into something real. When a head coach calls a quarterback a worker without any hesitation, that label carries real weight because it was earned through real observation, not a poll. G. Bush laid this out perfectly. You want to talk about the locker room? Fine. Go ask the locker room. Go directly to the players who live in it every day and find out what they actually think. Because every answer coming back from inside that building is pointing in exactly one direction, and it has nothing to do with the disaster story Jason Lloyd has been building in his head. Here's what makes this gap so striking. You have actual football people, players, coaches, staff, painting one clear picture of who Shedeur Sanders is and how he operates inside that organization. And then you have outside media figures painting a completely opposite picture using sources nobody can verify, referencing problems nobody can name, pointing to a locker room crisis nobody inside has actually described. One of those versions is grounded in real access, real observation, and real relationships with real people in that building. The other one is a hot take looking for an audience. The receipts from inside Cleveland don't lie. And right now, Every single one of them says Shedeur Sanders is doing the work. If you want to know who a player really is, don't watch the games. Watch what they do when nobody is required to be watching. Watch the offseason. Watch what decisions get made when there's no game on the schedule, no press conference to perform for, no coaches grading the tape the next morning. Because what happened in Cleveland's offseason told the entire story of this quarterback battle, more honestly than any media take ever could. Shedeur Sanders was there. He was in the facility. He was putting in the work when the building was mostly empty and the cameras weren't following anybody around. While other quarterbacks on that roster were living their summer, Shedeur was treating the offseason like it was the most important stretch of his professional life. Because for him, it genuinely was. Where was Dillon Gabriel? Not there. Where was Deshaun Watson? Reports suggest he was off somewhere in Europe. Italy specifically came up in the conversation, traveling, sightseeing, treating his summer like a vacation instead of treating it like a fight for professional survival. That contrast is not subtle. It's not a small difference in off-season philosophy. It's a fundamental gap in how seriously these two situations were being approached by the people inside them. Now think about everything that hangs on Shedeur's performance right now. His contract future, his path to becoming a starter in this league, his entire reputation as a first-round pick trying to prove the draft process was wrong about where he landed. Every single thing that matters for his career was sitting on the line during that offseason, and he responded by showing up every day and grinding while his competitors were on vacation. Bruce made a point here that deserves to be heard clearly. He said Shedeur was the only one there, and when he finally got into the offense and started taking real reps, the energy changed immediately. The offense woke up. The spark that had been missing showed up the second he was actually involved in real work. That's not coincidence. That's not luck or good timing or a fluke sequence of plays that happened to go well. That's the result of a player who treated preparation as sacred when everyone around him treated it as optional. You cannot fake that kind of dedication. You cannot manufacture the results that come from it by showing up after the work was already done. The off-season commitment either happened or it didn't. And in Cleveland, only one quarterback in that room treated those months like a mission instead of a break. Jason Lloyd wants to build arguments about Shedeur's professionalism, his work ethic, his value to the franchise. But the off-season receipts are already out there, and they're not subtle. While the other guys were resting, one quarterback was already preparing for a competition he refused to lose before it even started. That tells you everything you actually need to know. Out of everything Jason Lloyd said throughout this entire saga, this next claim might be the one that should embarrass him the most. After the trade argument fell apart, after the locker room narrative found no support, after the backup roll fear tactic landed with nothing behind it, Lloyd reached for one more attack. He claimed Shedeur doesn't know how to watch film. He claimed Shedeur doesn't understand what he's seeing on the field. He claimed Shedeur doesn't know when he's supposed to be the hot read, that he can't process the information in front of him when a defense shows him something unexpected. Lay that claim flat on the table for a moment and just look at it. Where is the proof? Where is the quote from a coach confirming this? Where is the film breakdown, the statistical evidence, the specific play from a specific game where Shedeur demonstrably missed a coverage read that any competent quarterback should have caught? Jason Lloyd offered none of it. He stated it like a fact and moved on, hoping the confidence in his voice would carry more weight than the complete absence of anything real behind the words. Todd Monken watches film with Shedeur every day. That's not a rumor or a report from someone on the outside guessing. That's the basic reality of how an NFL quarterback and his offensive coordinator work together. They sit in a room, they break down tape, they identify tendencies, they build a game plan, and the quarterback's ability to absorb and apply that information shows up directly in how he plays. Monken has called Shedeur a worker. He has not, at any point, expressed concern about his ability to process information or understand what he's seeing on the field. That matters enormously, because if the actual film room concern Lloyd described were real, Monken would be the first person to know about it, and the first person whose behavior would reflect it. And then flip the question entirely. Has Jason Lloyd ever sat in an NFL quarterback room? Has he ever had a defensive coordinator throw a new coverage at him with a play clock ticking down and a defense shifting at the line of scrimmage? Has he ever had to process all of that information in real time, make a decision, and execute it under physical pressure from players who have spent their entire careers learning to create chaos for quarterbacks? No, he watches from a press box with a monitor and a notepad. That's not disqualifying on its own. Sports journalism is a real profession. But it does matter when someone with that vantage point tries to make definitive claims about the mental processing ability of a professional quarterback, who is being evaluated daily by people with far more expertise and far more access. Bruce called this out, and he was absolutely right to do it. You don't get to attack a player's football intelligence from the press box with zero evidence and expect that claim to hold up when the actual coaching staff is saying the opposite. There's one final piece of this story that wraps everything together, and it's the part that Jason Lloyd never got around to mentioning. The part that doesn't fit the narrative he's been building, so it quietly got left out of every segment, every column, and every hot take he's pushed about Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur is the quarterback in that building that his own teammates walk up to and talk to. Not Deshaun Watson, not Dylan Gabriel. The players in that locker room, his teammates, the men who compete alongside him and see him every single day, are choosing to approach Shedeur when they want to have real conversations about football. Think about what that means in an NFL locker room environment. These are intensely competitive, highly proud professional athletes. Nobody goes out of their way to seek out a teammate's input unless that teammate has genuinely earned their respect. Leadership in a locker room isn't assigned. It isn't handed out because a front office made someone the starter or because a media figure decided someone deserves the role. It grows organically from how a player carries themselves, how they prepare, how they treat the people around them, and whether they show up consistently when things get hard. By every measure of that organic locker room respect, Shedeur is already earning it. The teammates are talking. The coaches are praising the work ethic. The players who share that building with him every day are choosing to go to him. That's real leadership developing in real time, and it's happening quietly while the media outside that building keeps inventing a different story. Kane made a point that deserves attention, too. Some of the frustration around Shedeur is really about internet noise, aggressive fan behavior, inflammatory tweets, social media pressure that has absolutely nothing to do with what's happening inside that locker room. Punishing a player for things strangers post online is not a football decision. It's a reaction to outside pressure, and Bruce identified it perfectly. You don't cut a player or damage his career because the internet got loud about him. Bruce also laid out something that should put the entire conversation to rest. This isn't a new story. Shedeur was solid with his teammates as a rookie. He remained solid in year 2. None of this leadership, none of this professional respect from the people inside that building appeared overnight. It's been there the entire time. The only thing that's new is the media's sudden interest in pretending it doesn't exist. The gap between what is actually being said inside that Cleveland facility and what is being reported about it by certain media figures has become impossible to ignore. Real players, real coaches, real results, all pointing in one direction. Media hot takes built on unnamed sources and invented fear, pointing somewhere completely different. Shedeur didn't create that gap. He's just the one living inside it every day, quietly proving the right version of the story with everything he does. Step back and look at the full picture here, because it's remarkable when you put it all together. Jason Lloyd came into this story with a loud, confident anti-Shedeur platform. He wanted him traded. then admitted nobody wanted him. He invented locker room drama that no teammate confirmed. He built a backup role fear argument without naming one actual incident. He attacked film study without offering one piece of evidence. And through all of it, the actual people inside that Cleveland building, the coaches, the teammates, the players who matter, kept telling a completely different story. Shedeur showed up in the offseason when nobody required him to. He stayed professional through a year of disrespect that would have broken most players. He earned real trust from real teammates through real work. And every time Lloyd threw another stone, Shedeur responded by putting his head down and grinding harder. That's not a player in crisis. That's a player building something the critics aren't ready to acknowledge yet. Lloyd wanted to write Shedeur's ending. Instead, he accidentally wrote his own. And the only person whose credibility took real damage from this entire saga is the one who started it. Drop Gridiron in the comments if you see what's actually happening in Cleveland. We'll keep watching. And before you think this story is finished, there is a bonus segment waiting for you at the very end of this video that digs even deeper into something the mainstream media has been completely avoiding. Stay locked in all the way through, because the final piece of this puzzle is the one that actually ties everything together. Here is the question nobody in mainstream sports media wants to answer honestly. Why Shedeur? Why does this particular quarterback keep drawing this specific kind of coverage? This relentless, shape-shifting criticism that changes its argument every single day but never actually goes away. Because if you step back far enough, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Every time one argument against Shedeur collapses, a brand new one appears almost immediately to replace it. Trade him. Nobody wants him. He wrecked the locker room. He can't read film. He's a distraction. He's a backup risk. The specific claim keeps shifting, but the conclusion always stays exactly the same. Shedeur Sanders is the problem. And that consistency, that predetermined destination that every argument somehow manages to reach regardless of what the actual evidence says, tells you something important about what's really driving this narrative. Real journalism follows the facts wherever they lead. Sometimes that means praising a player. Sometimes it means criticizing one. But the direction changes based on what the evidence actually shows, not based on a conclusion that was already decided before the research even started. What Bruce and G. Bush have been doing throughout this entire conversation is something refreshingly simple. They keep asking for proof. They keep demanding that the argument match the reality. And every single time they do that, the media figures on the other side of the table either contradict themselves, go vague, or quietly change the subject. Shedeur Sanders is a young black quarterback fighting for his career in a city that has not made that fight easy. He has handled every obstacle thrown at him with a level of composure that most veterans twice his age couldn't maintain. And instead of that composure being celebrated, it keeps getting reframed as arrogance, as delusion, as some kind of red flag that proves he doesn't understand his situation. That reframing is not accidental. It's a choice. And the people making that choice keep getting exposed every single time someone decides to hold the receipts up and ask the simple question, where is the actual proof? Shedeur doesn't need the media to believe in him. His teammates already do. His coaches already do. And if Cleveland is smart enough to trust what's happening inside their own building over what's being said outside of it, they might just discover the answer to their quarterback problem has been right in front of them the entire time.
I think it's, if he loses the job, do you want him as the backup? That's what Fowler was saying. That's what Mary Kay was saying.
What would be the problem with him being the backup?
Everything that went on last year. Do you really want to relive that?
What was the problem last year? What was the problem last year? He could have said whatever he really wanted with all the treatment he got last year without getting reps and everything else. He could have went off. A lot of other players would have, and he didn't. He remained stoked through all that situation. What problem happened last year? What happened? I didn't hear about no problem, and I've been doing videos on this every damn day for a year almost. almost every single day I did a video like this covering this, and there was no problem. That's the thing. What was the problem?
Well, that doesn't really have anything to do with him. That has to do with the noise surrounding him.
You don't just cut a guy because of that. He's not a problem in the locker room. He's not a problem in public because
he's the one quarterback players are actually go up to talk to in the locker room on this team.
Because some of us don't like the tweets we're getting on the internet. Okay, and yeah, I understand that there's been some fans who've gone over the line, and I don't like.
He's the one quarterback that everybody's coming up to talk to on this team when it comes to the players. He's the one This is old. This is old. This ain't new. This ain't new. This is older. This is all older. All of it. All of it. So last year, same as a rookie, even year 2 player. This is not new stuff. This is old. This has been forever with the Browns. Like, he has been solid when it came to player relationships. That's more what you're talking about, not locker room. Come on, dude.
Like that, and I'm not condoning that. But because we don't like some of the things we've got on the internet, well, if he either plays or we cut him.
Know how to watch film. Had to sort of be shown how to watch film. Doesn't know what he's looking at on the field. Doesn't know when he's hot.